Hello, everyone, and welcome to the National Inventor Club. My name is Brian Freed, and I'm the founder and president of the club, and we have a great lineup tonight. How about thinking about how you're going to fund your invention? So you came up with this great idea, you came up with a great business plan. How do we actually make it a reality when we want to actually do it ourselves and go into business for ourselves? So we're going to hear about funding, venture capital, seed funding, a lot of great information tonight. Let's first start off by talking about National Inventor Club. We started last year in January and really have built an amazing base of inventors, entrepreneurs, startups, innovators, service providers for inventors. Very, very exciting. Really great community. There's so much more that's going to be happening in the next couple months. I'm so excited to announce, but not just yet. But if you are a free member, please enjoy the meetings. We have past meetings also on the website. If you're a paid member, premium member, you get a nice National Inventor Club t-shirt. Not this one. Somebody got this one for me. But you get a nice National Inventor Club t-shirt. You get to do an intro in one of our meetings. You get to be part of an inventor showcase. If you're a service provider, you get to be part of a service provider showcase. We had an amazing showcase last month with inventors, so that was exciting. You could take a look at the past meetings on National Inventor Club's website, and you go to the past meetings on there. And a lot of other activities that we're doing, especially after the meeting. We have an after meeting networking event where all the paid members are on. They already received a unique link, and we get to talk about the meeting. We talk about our inventions and helping each other. And some of the service providers are with us, and it's really nice. Everybody gets to be on video. We talk, we schmooze, and by 10 o'clock Eastern time, we should be done. But for this meeting, very excited to get us started here. Let's first start off with Erica Chase Gregory. She is from Farmingdale Small Business Development Center, and really amazing what she does for the inventor, entrepreneur, innovator, startup. Erica, welcome, and please give us some of your words of wisdom from Small Business Development Center.
Hi, good evening. So if you're new to understanding who the Small Business Development Center is, we are a resource partner of the Small Business Administration, the SBA. We help with technical assistance for any individual looking to start a business or who already has a business who may be looking for ways of expanding their footprint in the marketplace, or if they're putting in a new product and they need some assistance getting that into the marketplace. Perhaps you're looking for financing and you need to develop a business plan. Wherever you are in your business, we can help you reach your goals. So you connect with an SBDC, you get connected with a small business advisor, a business advisor, and they'll work one-on-one with you to reach your goals. So we are a nationwide program. So to find your local SBDC, you can go to americassbdc.org, and on the top bar, just click Find My SBDC, and you'll find your SBDC to find your business counselor where you can reach your goals. But tonight, I just want to talk a little bit about product development. And really the first part of a pitch with any product is outlining the problem, right? So you have a problem that you want to answer into the community. What's really important for the inventors or someone who has a new product is to listen to the feedback that you're receiving. So it's really important to outline that problem. We suggest to talk to 10 to 20 people, give them the problem that you think you're going to solve with your product, and ask them about how would they solve this problem. Where is solving this problem on their priority list? And if the problem is solved, will they be saving time, making money, or saving their time, saving money, or making more money in their life, right? Because that's really the bottom line where people are buying products. So important to listen. You may love your product, but if you can't convince a buyer that it will change their lives in some way, it won't be worth, they won't spend money on your product. So it's really important to do that before. Many products go into the marketplace as a first reiteration, and they continue to change it. So never be shy to put it out there, talk about it, get that feedback, and don't be shy to change it. So again, the Small Business Development Center is here to be part of that for you, to be your sounding board, to use us to talk about your idea, your product, to get some feedback from us, and to give you resources on how to find those people that really can be your sounding board so you get your product out there and to be able to sell it, and because that's really what you want to do.
Thank you so much, Erica. So Small Business Development Center is a division of the Small Business Administration. Most of the SBDCs are found on campuses very close to where you live. And Erica runs the one here in Long Island, New York. And during COVID, anytime, amazing help and support for the inventor community, for the startup small business community, and it cost us zero. It's free. They look to have people to work with, and that's how they continue to get their funding and to make things happen for us. Business plan templates, resources that are local to your community there that they have connections with, banks and different grants they have access to be able to hear about and to pass your way. So definitely take advantage of the Small Business Development Center. If you're in New York, Erica is the place to be. If it's not in New York and you're somewhere else, go to americassbdc.com and put in your information and find one near you. Erica, thank you as always for your great information. We really appreciate your support to the club.
You're welcome, Brian. Thanks for having me. Have a good night.
Speak to you soon. You too. Okay. All right. Let's have Edgar Guerrero Erazio from the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. What an honor to have representatives like yourself from the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office share some words of wisdom for us to the inventor community. Edgar, thank you for joining us. Tell us what you got for us tonight.
Thank you, Brian. Thanks for having me. Good evening to everyone. Just wanted to share a few announcements in terms of USPTO, United States Patent and Trademark Office. I would like to share that USPTO has appointed new key executives to the office. Our new Deputy Undersecretary of Commerce for Intellectual Property and Deputy Director of USPTO, Mr. Derek Brent, as well as our new Chief Communications Officer, Russell Lopez. In addition of this brief announcement of the upper management team being receiving this honorable gentleman, we also have would like to share with you today we kicked off our Spanish language programs covering fundamentals of IP, USPTO resources, patent basics, trademark basics, and also how to patent abroad. So this is another of the installments that we offer quarterly on a quarterly basis. And that's also something that we can share. In addition of other different initiatives such as CI Square, the Council for Inclusive Innovation, as well as Access PTO, USPTO. And this is this later is an initiative directed to increase understanding of IP rights in America by uniquely collaborating with trusted voices serving the hard-to-reach entrepreneurs. Please take advantage of the different programs that we have when it comes to pro bono programs, the law school clinics, as well as the Inventors Assistance Center as well. We're here to help, and also I'm here on behalf of the Eastern Regional Outreach Office under Directors Elizabeth Doherty and our team. We're here to help and to be open to any question that you guys may have. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you very much, Edgar. And please tell the Eastern Division of the innovation team that we say hello, and tell Elizabeth we say hello, please. But really appreciate you being on with us, giving us some words of advice and some resources that are available to the inventor community. uspto.gov. If you're on this meeting, just jot it down for now. Don't leave us, but jot it down and visit it when you can. uspto.gov. There's an inventor resource area there. Plenty of events, plenty of resources on there to help you, to give you definitions. Somebody reached out to me that had a question about a trademark today. I told them go to uspto.gov. They can find all the information on trademarks. They want to ask some questions and learn. The support there is great. So Edgar, thank you for joining us. Really appreciate it. And we'll see you again soon.
My pleasure. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you. Let's get some of our new members of National Inventor Club to say hello, a quick intro. Let's get Konstantin Dolgin. Hi, Konstantin. Welcome.
Hi, Brian. Thanks for having me here.
Well, thank you for being a new member of National Inventor Club. So tell us who you are, where you're from, and why you're here.
Absolutely. Thanks for inviting. It's a great community to be a part of. I'm a certified new product development professional and a CEO of LA New Product Development Team. We are a new product development company based in Shreveport, Louisiana. We do pretty much everything related to developing new products, starting from idea development all the way to product design, prototyping, short-run production, and putting products on the market. So two things we don't do, we don't deal with patents essentially. So that's one thing that we do not do. But other than that, we help inventors, startups, established companies to get their ideas developed, get their prototypes built, and get their products produced and launched. We've been doing this for about 7 years now, and like I said, our primary location is in Shreveport, Louisiana, and that's where we are, and this is what we do.
I know we have some inventors out there that are on the meeting tonight that are from Louisiana. I know, Sean, you are for sure. So Konstantin is a supporter of National Inventor Club, and thank you. And hopefully we'll see you soon in the upcoming service provider showcase, so you can tell us more about what you and your company do. Until then, thank you for your support, and keep doing what you're doing, helping the inventor.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you. Let's get Larry Holmes from Safe Homes Faucet Restraint. And I know, Larry, we've had some fun time together recently. Why don't you tell us who you are, where you're from, and you could show us your invention real quick there. Thank you for being a new member. So tell us who you are.
Hey, Brian, thanks again. I really appreciate it. Hi, everyone. I am Larry Holmes. I am the CEO of Safe Homes Design, and my invention is the faucet handle restraint. By the way, I'm from Indiana. Now, what our product does is designed to prevent toddlers and even pets from turning on the faucet and causing unnecessarily water use. You simply attach the unit, put it on your dual handle faucets, adjust, and there you go, just like that. And so there we are, quick and simple.
Very nice. It looks like you had a little practice there, Larry, huh?
Yeah, the first time I was a little nervous, and I was excited. I got good reviews from the video that you helped me to put out, but I've been practicing so I can look a little more smoother as we do this.
All you need to do, Larry, is smile. They'll buy your product all day long, but it's an amazing product, and congratulations on your success so far. And
thanks, buddy.
I know that you have a lot more to come, so congratulations. Where can we buy your product?
My product is on several different, it's on our website, safehomes.com. It's on Amazon. It's on Etsy. It's also on eBay and Poshmark.
Excellent. Larry, thank you for being a member of National Inventor Club, and we will see you very soon.
I appreciate you so much, brother.
Thank you. You too.
Take care.
You too. Okay, here we go. We have Rich Honen. He is from Phillips Lytle, and he is an amazing guy. He actually won in 2021 the Lawyer of the Year, which hopefully you could tell us a little bit about that. Your firm is amazing. I know that they're in New York. They're involved with venture capital, or your division is more into venture capital, mergers and acquisitions. You work with startup companies. thank you for joining us tonight, Rich.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
So why don't you tell us in your own words who you are and what you're up to? And it's interesting because us inventors and startups and entrepreneurs, and there's so many different names that we call ourselves, we're at a point sometimes where we're like, you know what? Here's a great idea. Maybe I understand this licensing. Maybe I want to earn royalties, but maybe I came up with this invention and I want to start my own business, or I don't know what I want to do yet, but I want to start my own business. Money's tight. I don't know what to do. I can ask my friends and family. We'll talk about all that. I don't want to spill the beans there, but look, many of us, I should say, watch Shark Tank. We're wondering how people get funded, what those valuations mean. I don't know. How do we figure out when the right time is to put money into our invention or to ask people for money? What does seed funding and angel funding and all that mean? Help us clear this up tonight, because there's so much out there and we don't know what to do first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth. So Rich, help us out tonight. Why don't you start off by telling us a little bit about who you are and what your expertise is in?
Well, thanks, Brian. So I'm Rich Honen. I'm a partner in the firm of Phillips Lytle. It's about a 170 lawyer firm, mostly in upstate New York, but in some other places as well. And I run our venture capital and startup group. So I get to work with all sorts of entrepreneurs, people out of college, people out of industry, people who have just come up with ideas or want to come up with ideas. So it's a fun thing to do. Brian, so many people will come in and explain their business or maybe go through their deck or their PowerPoint, and I'll say, okay, that's great. How much money are you looking for? And a lot of times the answer is, I don't even know. I don't know how, what should I look for? Who should I ask? Would anybody even give me money? And that's not a terrible answer. Sometimes the answer is, I need $10 million because I need $10 million. That's not as good an answer. The single best answer is when somebody says, well, my next step is to do this, and it's going to cost me $20,000 to get a prototype done. So you just saw Larry's presentation before. Look how impressive it was that Larry Holmes had his product right there. He was able to demonstrate it, be able to show it. It spoke for itself. He had to get a prototype to do that, and it probably cost him some money to do it. I know it looks simple, but he probably went through a bunch of iterations. So that's the first thing. Figure out what is the next step in the development of your business.
Well, that's really what we have to figure out. So we're all coming up with these great ideas, or at least we start off with having a great idea. And now we're trying to figure out, okay, if we want to start our own business, we want to start to manufacture, there's a lot of different steps before we even get to the point of needing funding. The first thing, you know what, let me take this off for just a moment here so we can chat. So look, Rich, many of us come up with this idea and we get really excited. We have this unbelievable feeling in our gut that this is going to make us $1 gazillion and it's going to change our life. And that's great. But we take a step back and we say, okay, I just came up with an idea. This is a business. I'm going to be putting my time, money, energy, effort into it. And I need to know what to do first, second, third, fourth, fifth. So really, when we're coming up with this idea, the first thing really to do, and I don't want to get too deep into this part of it, Rich, but a lot of times people show me their ideas and I go online in 5 seconds and I find it. And is it your idea? Is it enough of a difference than what's out there? Or did you just hit a brick wall and maybe you should move on to your next idea? So let's get past that. So a patent search can be helpful with a patentability opinion, making at least as much as you can of a raw prototype, something crude even that doesn't cost you too much money, just to kind of get it to a point where maybe it makes sense. You might want to show it to people, have them sign a non-disclosure agreement. I could share a free non-disclosure agreement, but you can start to get some activity going there to figure out, look, I feel great about it. I have an emotional attachment to it. but is it something that's going to make me money?
Yeah.
And right?
Yeah.
So does that happen to you, Rich? Do a lot of people come to you without doing research?
I think sometimes, I think by the time they get to us, whether it's at some event or something like that, people have been giving it thought, and just listening to the other folks who are already on. So what Erica Chase was talking about makes so much sense. Talk to people. Be able to first get to the point where you could actually explain your idea. You've all heard the concept of the elevator pitch, but it really means something. What is your idea? Is it a product? What does it do? How does it help? How much do you think it'll cost? And what will it save for people? Have those conversations with people. Obviously, you have to keep some of the information kind of close to the vest. But to take a page out of Erica's book and talk to folks, talk to other professionals, and talk to people who you think might be your customers. That's the first thing. The second thing is, again, from what Edgar was talking about, to your point, get on the Uspto site. You can find lots of information on patents and trademarks and things like that. Do a Google search, all those things to get some ideas of who else is doing this. Usually people have come up with something because they see a specific need. They've had a need in their business or in their life, and they've looked all over and haven't been able to find a way to fulfill that need. And they feel like, I'm going to be the person who does it. So they've usually given it some thought, and now they're ready to take it to the next step. And the next step is usually either trying to do a prototype or even just getting more information, maybe getting a patent search or hiring somebody like Constantine, for example, to work with somebody to make a prototype and work out your marketing strategy. But usually you should have a good idea of what's the next thing you need to do. Usually it is trying to actually make the thing work or make some part of it work.
Now, when you start to look, or somebody starts to show you their idea, what goes through your brain, Rich? Is the idea good? How am I going to figure out to be able to get this person funding? Like, what's your thought process?
Is it something that just interests me, right? Is it something? Usually there's these little things you've never thought about that other people have thought, have come up with. The idea we were talking before about. There's a company up here from Syracuse, New York, started by a Syracuse college student. Basically, think of it as a spare battery that you carry around in your Tesla or your electric vehicle. Back in the days when people used to have range anxiety. Kid came up with it in his dorm room, and a couple of weeks ago he was at the White House with President Biden, talking about that kind of stuff. So it's usually something that people see a need for, and something that when I see it, I see how cool it is. But I never try and figure out, is it a good idea? Because there's so many ideas that I definitely would have dinged that have become great ideas. And the example I always use is Starbucks. If you look at it logically, Starbucks shouldn't work. Coffee is, back when Starbucks started, coffee cost 50 cents or 40 cents. It took 10 seconds to pour at 7-Eleven, and that was it. Starbucks comes along, and now coffee costs $7 and takes 20 minutes to make. And you would never think that would be a sellable idea. There's a lot of Starbucks around right now. So I never see what whether idea is good or bad. What I look for and what investors look for is how much thought has the entrepreneur given to her or his idea. So when I say, how much money do you need? And they say, oh, I think I need $8 million because I need to start a lab to be able to create this company. I may disagree with that idea, but at least I know they've thought about it. Now I might come in and say, well, why don't you hire a product person like Constantine or somebody like that? Or why don't you find somebody, a manufacturer to do it for you? And maybe they have given that some thought. But the most important thing is, how much has the entrepreneur thought about their idea? How much time have they invested? And once you know they've done that, I'm less concerned with their answers. I'm more concerned with whether they're really invested in it.
Okay. So we've spent some time, we have some prototype, we kind of vetted it at this point. Should we have gotten some figures from manufacturers if we're doing something like that, from the cost of, if it's a prototype that's some heavy loaded type of item product? Where should we get to before we call somebody like yourself, Rich?
Well, I think at first there's a huge amount of resources available to you, and like some of the people that you've already had. Obviously, you could talk to your local people, like the Ericas of the world, right? Because there's small business development corps everywhere. There's also usually an entrepreneurial group in whatever town you're in. There's groups that get together. There's usually people doing business plan presentations. And you can find those events and go to them and see other people present their plans. But you should be able to figure out, some things I like to know is, okay, once you have your product, how much are you going to sell it for? Is it something where it's $2 and you're going to sell 10 million of them, or is it something where it costs 20 million bucks and you only have to sell one a year? So I'd like to know that you've thought about that kind of stuff. And then that you found out how other people are making it and how much it's costing them. Are you going to go overseas and do it? Are you going to maybe do it here? We just like to know that you've spent some time actually finding out who can make your product for you and how yours is going to be different.
Makes sense. So we're not talking about any kind of valuations or anything like that. We're talking about getting the funds that you need for the startup of your invention. Now, just a quick question, Rich, because I know a lot of people have had the same type of question. Is an invention a business, or is it a product? Is it something that we need to think about more of a business, or is it okay that we just have one product?
It could be either. And look, some investors will tell you we only want one product. Just make one thing, make it over and over, and that's what we want. Sometimes, and I think one of the things you're getting at is maybe you've just come up with an idea, and you don't even really want to make it. You want to give it to somebody else, let them make it. You get some money from it, let them do all the making and the selling and the customer service and all that kind of stuff. And that's something you need to decide for yourself. It's hard to find money to reinvent all those wheels, for example. The other thing that investors like to see you focused on one product, but they also like to see that the product can take different iterations and there's other places you can go with it. So at this point, like by the time you're looking for investors, one, you've kind of vetted the idea that there is some appetite for your product, your service, your software, whatever it is. Two, you've done some due diligence and you figured out how much you would sell it for, how you would go about producing this, again, whether it's software or an actual widget or something else. And now you have some idea of kind of how much money you need and kind of how long it's going to take you, right? That's usually what we want to know. Once you have those numbers, then you kind of know where you want to go in terms of investors, which brings us here. Every investor is going to want to see you put some of your own money in, and that includes money of your friends and family. So obviously, if you need $5 million because you're trying to do drug research or something, you're not going to get that from friends and family. But if you need $30,000 to do a prototype, or to maybe run 100 widgets, they're going to expect you to get that from friends and family. And be able to bring it to the point where when you go to the next level of investor, that they know that there's kind of something under them.
You know what, Rich? We hear a lot of people that say, you know what, you need to put some skin in the game. You need to put your own money in. What does that really mean?
Yeah, and if you're an entrepreneur, you can kind of get a little tired of hearing that, right? Because everybody who's probably listening now has a lot of skin in the game. Maybe they have a day job and they've been doing this, the rest of the time. Maybe they've actually decided to do this full time. Maybe they put a lot of their money, a lot of their time. a lot of stomach lining, goes into these things. But people do want to see that you are invested both emotionally and usually financially. An investor is not going to be interested if you say, I need, you're not going to go to a venture capitalist and say, I need $10,000. They're going to feel like if you have faith in your idea, you should be able to find a way of scraping up $10,000, for example. If you need 250, then you probably have to go to the next level. And that's where you start looking for angel investors who are usually, wealthy people, usually in your town, who have made their money in a certain industry and want to invest, one, to make money, but also because, they like the process and they kind of want to, be involved in the next big thing.
Rich, so here we are. We want to start manufacturing our product, our invention. We're going to ask our friends and family for money. What's the pitch? What kind of pitch is that? And then let's talk about angels, because we've heard the word angels. We don't all know what that means, but what's the pitch?
So there's one of two pitches. And this, I'm probably mixing slides because now we're really getting into the idea of raising money. The kind of people you go to and the pitch that you make is a little bit dependent on the amount of money that you need. All right. Again, if you need $10,000, sometimes people will just lend you $10,000, or they say, I want to buy a piece of the company, which sounds simple, but that's where we get into some really complicated things. You go to a friend, your friend says, yeah, Brian, I believe in you. I'll give you $5,000 or I'll give you $20,000 to get involved. And you say, great, I'm going to give you a piece of the company for that. Okay. As opposed to you lend me the money and I'll pay you back. No, you can invest and I'll give you a piece. The minute you do that, you've placed a valuation on the company. If I give you $20,000, you give me 10% of your company, there's an implied valuation there of $200,000. Does that make sense? How did we get there? A lot of times the way we got there was you said, I needed $10,000. And the person said, all right, well, if it's friends and family, just give me something, but they're not arm wrestling over valuation as much. But when you get into third parties like angels or certainly venture capitalists, the people whose job it is to basically invest other people's money in your business, then valuation becomes a big issue.
Okay.
Yeah, let me just say one other thing. The only time where it's not is we do have a bullet point there about government grants and loans, things like SBIR, all of there's a panoply of programs from state, federal, local government. And a lot of them are loans. A lot of them are direct grants that are great. And then you don't have a valuation issue. And that's why a lot of people start off by looking at those types of resources.
Very interesting. So let's kind of zip through these, Rich.
Yeah.
What type of investors are there? So we understand who friends and family are. We offer them a piece of the company. We offer them future earnings, or they just give us a gift. So let's what's the next step when we've kind of exhausted those options?
The next step are angels. These are people, and sometimes there's local people who have put a group of angels together. Sometimes there's just some people in your community who like to invest, and you have to do a little searching around to find them. And these people are they're still kinder and gentler than the venture capitalists, but they're going to want something a little more structured. They're either going to want an actual piece of the company with all the documentation that involves, or they're going to want to lend you money in a way that if the company hits, they get something better than just a return on their investment. They want something more than interest.
Okay.
And we can talk about that. So angels will want that. The next level up, and usually in our world, anywhere from 25,000 to 250,000. I know I'm casting a very wide range. In a lot of regions, that's where you're starting to look for angel investors. That's usually more than you can get from your friends and family. Obviously, out in Silicon Valley, for example, you'll have angel investors who will put in $2 million because there's just different money sources out there. But up to about that amount. And sometimes angels will get together in a group and you could raise 250 or 500. So that's who angels are. And we'll talk in a minute about the kind of investments they want. And then the last, the on the far end of the spectrum is the venture capitalists. And these are the private equity folks. And these are people who will raise millions, tens, hundreds of millions of dollars in funds. And they're specifically looking to make large investments.
Very interesting. For pretty much all of these, we should have some kind of business plan together. And you mentioned company, taking pieces of companies. When we're coming up with an idea and we're starting our product and development, we don't necessarily have a company that we've formed, right? Or have
Right.
some business formation. Is that something that's important at this stage, Rich?
It's important. When somebody is putting money in, yeah. Okay. Up until then, when you're just maybe doing your prototype or you're getting your patent or you're doing your investigation, you could pretty much ride without that. Excuse me. But when people are actually putting in money for a million reasons, you have to actually have an entity. You have to start a corporation or a limited liability company. The biggest reasons are, one, how else are they going to get a piece of it? You need an entity for people to either invest in or buy a part of. And the other thing is, you need all of your intellectual property, your ideas, your patents, your trademarks, your know-how to all fall into kind of one repository. And that's going to be your company.
Interesting.
It's not hard to start a company, but by the time you're looking for money, you should either have your company or be able to tell people, look, I'm about to form a corporation. As soon as I start raising money, this is what it's going to look like.
We have somebody on the LinkedIn feed that says, so let's say an investor wants a product that's already making money and it's proven. So why at that point would we need you? If we have that type of product proving the market, wouldn't the larger manufacturers be interested?
Maybe. First, you might need money you might need money just to produce it, right? You might want to produce more on your own. Usually, that's what you need. You also need money for marketing and to get customers and be able to service customers, get them out into the stores. If you're making enough where you don't need to do that and you don't think you need the money to expand, then you're fine. You probably don't need an investor. But the other thing that I will point out is the investor also gives you speed to market. So you might be going to, you might be selling to stores locally, or maybe you land a deal with Target or Costco or something like that. But once your product's out there, somebody else could kind of flood the market. If you have a lot of money, if you have more money to start with, you could actually get more product out there and already be there in the market. So those are some of the reasons why you might want investors, even if you're already making a modest return.
It could be for production. It could be for marketing, right? It could be for operational expenses. I guess there's different variables, and people may be working on expanding their operation to different countries. I guess there's many different reasons why people might, but even at the startup stage, people might be looking.
Sure.
So, Rich, valuation is your next slide here.
Yeah.
You had a quick example before, but how do we figure out what our product is worth, our business is worth? When do we start to figure out that we should evaluate it, do a valuation on it? Is it in the beginning at a startup? Is it something that we should kind of test and vet the market and then come back? So maybe you can help us, because we hear a lot of things on Shark Tank also that I know a lot of people are a fan of, that are
Right.
Listening and watching here. So how do you help us with figuring out this formula?
Well, first, as in so many other things with startups, sometimes the answer isn't as important as your ability to show that you've done the research, you've thought about it, and you have a rational response to the question of what's your valuation. And like you said before, Brian, it comes up faster than you think, because like I say, if somebody says, I'll give you $20,000, why don't you give me some percentage of the company? You have to make a valuation decision right there. Because if somebody's giving you money and you're giving them a piece of whatever it is, that implies a valuation. So
Yep. Maybe
I
give
will
us some
say,
examples.
okay, so the hardest thing to do is to value a company when you're still at a binary point, meaning if the stuff works and people buy it, it's worth a whole lot. But if it doesn't, if people don't, then it's not worth much. And early on, you don't know that. You might not even have your product. You might not have proven it out. You're not even sure you can make something that works and that people will buy. So the first question is, how would you value this if it works? And the answer to that is usually find similar companies and try and figure out how they are valued. And it doesn't necessarily mean the amount that they're valued at. What we're trying to figure out is what's the methodology. So is it based on, if it's software, is it based on seats? Is it based on the number of licenses you sell? Is it based on the number of advertising revenue? Is it based on recurring revenue? Is it earnings? Is it revenues? There's different ways of valuing things. So what you need to do is to be able to find companies that are similar to yours and say, well, look, usually companies like this sell for, X times revenues, for example, and you could research and find that. But it's important to be able to show that you've given thought to how your company is similar to some companies and what the differentiators are. So you need to come up with a reason why you say, give me $1 million and I'll give you 10% of my company, meaning my company's worth $10 million. How did you get there?
Makes sense. Rich, just looking at some of the feeds, we're streaming on many of the social channels. So are you an investor? Tell us again who you are and what you represent and how you represent people to in this stage.
So I'm just a lawyer, and the way we make a lot of, so we don't do a lot of direct, my firm doesn't do direct investments. But what I do is I spend a lot of time talking to companies. I might spend 5 years giving advice to a company and giving them lots of advice over time, and maybe sending them a bill for $1,000 a year, maybe just while getting to know the company, getting to know their industry, and while I'm trying to determine whether the entrepreneurs kind of have what it takes, and then maybe. So we will invest time and money in getting to know the company. And then maybe in year 6, you'll get a call and they'll say, hey, I have an investor who wants to put in $2 million. They want to do something called a SAFE. I don't know what it is. And then, I say, well, great, you're getting some money. Now we could actually, have that conversation. But we invest a lot of time. I've also, like a lot of people, I've invested, personally as well. But usually law firms are going to stay away from direct investments. Usually what we're pretty good at is being able to put you together with people who will invest in a company at whatever stage you are in whatever industry you are. As you know, Brian, the entrepreneurial ecosystem, wherever you go, is really tight. You're always within a few degrees of separation of kind of everybody in the ecosystem. So you usually can find the right people.
Makes sense. Let's just pull up Donna's question real quick.
Okay.
Going back to funding, what is a fair share of equity for an investment of, for example, 100,000?
Well, perfect question, and the answer is usually nobody knows. Okay, because what we have a fix for that. Can we go to the next slide?
Yeah, let's do that.
I think okay. So to Donna's question, somebody wants to put in $100,000. Donna has determined that's what she needs to bring the company to the next level. The investor likes it, and now they're sitting there saying, so what is it? 10% of the company? Is it 50% of the company? We don't know, and we might not have enough data points to really know what that is until after this money goes in and Donna deploys it in an effective way. That's one problem. The other problem is to do a deal where somebody actually buys stock in your company can be a complicated legal deal. They might get preferred stock where they have all sorts of rights. They get their money back first. They have a right to veto some of your decisions. And for a big venture capital deal, that usually turns into 4 or 5 documents of 60 pages each, and that's a lot of money. So we're not going to have a $100,000 deal where we spend $50,000 on Donna's legal fees and $50,000 on the investor's legal fees, and that hasn't gotten us anywhere. So over the last 15, 20, 25 years, the venture capital and startup industry has come up with this idea of convertible notes and safes. And you might have heard that. And Donna, I know I'm taking the long way around the barn here, but there is an answer to this. Everybody realized that we usually had willing people who wanted to put in money, in Donna's example, $100,000, but didn't really know what percentage to get. So what we did was we created this idea of convertible notes. A note is like a promissory note. The person would lend Donna's company $100,000. Maybe the note would accrue interest, but she wouldn't pay anything back for a couple of years. Then when Donna was doing her next round of funding, her $1 million round, where now she's getting her big capital, that $100,000 investor who got that convertible note will then convert their note and get the same preferred stock that the big investors are getting at the same valuation, usually at kind of a discount. So if the new investors now come in and they say, Donna, we're going to give you $1 million for 20% of your company, implying what is that? $5 million valuation. Hopefully I did that right. Then the $100,000 investor would get $100,000 worth of stock at that valuation. They'd get the same preferred stock as the investors with all the rights, and maybe they'd get a little more. They'd get 15% more because they were there earlier. So the idea of convertible notes was great. It was a short document, 8, 10, 12 pages. You didn't have to do the 300 pages of documents. But most importantly, it puts off the day of reckoning, the valuation day, until you have more money, later data points. So Donna, the answer would be your situation is tailor-made for a convertible note. So you give the investor a $100,000 note and you say, when I do a big deal, however we define that, anytime over in the next 3 or 5 years, you will turn from being a note holder, a lender, to an actual investor in the company, and you'll get all the bells and whistles that my investors get. That's usually how we deal with something like that.
That
That's
makes
what
sense.
a convertible note is.
And this is not something that you really talk about with your friends and family. What level of the types of investors do you bring this to?
It's funny you say that. And certainly angel, by the time you're talking angel investors, yes, but it's, friends and family are getting pretty savvy. In the old days, you could give them the decorative, common stock that they would put on the refrigerator because your aunt would give you $10,000 because she loves you, which is great,
Right.
But now for a lot of reasons, and by the way, you want, if your family is supporting you, you usually want them to do well if you do well also. So
Absolutely.
So more and more, even friends and family are getting these convertible notes. That they have become the funding vehicle of choice for most early stage investment up to 250, 500,000. Sometimes you'll have a group of investors and you'll put in $1 million. They'll each get a $250,000 note. There's some more complications to it, but it's really a really good resolution to it gets the money in, it rewards the investor who comes in early, and it protects the investor as well.
Got it. Well, let's see if we can continue. We have about 10 minutes or so left,
Okay.
but just Donna's just wants to be clear. So you can't use the 100,000 from a convertible note to value the company, or is she misunderstanding something?
Well, what you would do is the company wouldn't have a value yet. And you're not misunderstanding. I'm probably not explaining it as clearly as I could. When the person gives you the $100,000 and you give them a note back that says, I owe you $100,000, and interest will accrue at some rate or something. You won't actually pay it, but it'll get added to the note. What you're really saying is, I don't know what the valuation is. The valuation for that $100,000 will be set maybe 2 years from now when my big funding comes in. And Donna, I'm assuming that you're going to need something more than $100,000. Now, it might be, if you're telling me that all I'll ever need is this $100,000, and then we can just sell the company, then maybe it makes sense to sit down and say, all right, you're going to have one investor and that's that. Maybe we do a simple deal where they get a percentage of the company. But usually the first question I always ask is, how many rounds of funding do you think you're going to need? Usually people say that $100,000 is a start, but then I'm going to need 2 million. So the answer, Donna, is at the time the person gives you that $100,000, there's still no valuation on the company. And the company won't have a valuation until later when you do a big investment.
Right. Most of the time, most of the time, it's very difficult to just throw numbers out. I mean, it's really tough. You didn't even get started, and now you're talking about next rounds of what it's going to be. So I think really for us, just kind of taking baby steps to say, okay, and let's be tight and lean on what we need. Let's get as close to as possible to what we really need the money for. Let's get a couple quotes. You know, a lot of times I hear people say that their tooling is going to be X amount. And I said, okay, well, where else or who else have you gotten quotes from? No, just one person. Right. And, you know, you want to be able to sell and pitch your idea, get some good feedback and understanding of what's out there, and ask for references and referrals and see what's out there. But Rich, a lot of times this is all scary to us as an inventor and starting it up. So, you know, we don't really know where to go or where to start yet, but as we're going through these steps, you're helping us to kind of put ourselves and plant the seed to be able to build it up into a growing business.
Right. And the great thing about being an entrepreneur now is there's so many resources. You can now, if anybody who's listening, if you're typing in convertible note, you could find all sorts of explanations and forms for convertible note. And again, you have, the Ericas of the world who can help you. You have the Constantines of the world who you could hire, and lots of lawyers and even venture capitalists will spend a lot of time with you without charging, just to kind of, explain some of this stuff to you in the hopes that, maybe you'll come back and hire them later. And if not, that's okay too, because now we have another good entrepreneur out there. It'll adds to the ecosystem. So you can, and I'm not the only one. There's lots of lawyers who will take lots of time to kind of explain some of these things with any entrepreneur.
Yeah. Well, you know what, Rich? Also, just kind of going through this, and somebody mentioned it also, I think a few times in different streams. Is it really necessary to get our product out there to be able to actually have some valuation on what we have?
It's not necessarily. You can, and a lot of times, like in the case of software, for example, or apps, or gaming, a lot of times it's not out there. You will, but what you do is you say, I have the software, it's a bolt on to this, it's going to be, $79, per user. And, I think that if I could land this one customer, that's, 8,000 users there or something like that. So you don't necessarily have to be out there. But again, if you use a lot of these things like convertible notes, and by the way, a safe, you might also see this idea of a safe. It's called the simple agreement for equity. It's the same thing as a convertible note. A convertible note kind of assumes you're going to get paid back if things don't work out. In real life, you probably won't. And a safe kind of just does away with that fiction and says, look, I'm just going to put money in. If you ever do a bigger financing, then I will convert into that financing. If not, then I'll just walk away. Which is functionally what happens with a convertible note anyway. But safe is a more West Coast thing. It's been catching on a lot lately.
Got it. We've been answering questions as the event has been going on, the meeting has been going on. There's a couple more questions that came in, Rich.
Sure. Go ahead.
So one of them is about Donna. What happens if Donna defaults on the note?
Well, okay, but John, you anticipated what I just said. it's kind of hard to default on a convertible note. I think what John's saying is a scenario we were just talking about. Usually the convertible note is not even contemplated to be paid back for, say, 3 years. So at the end of 3 years, you say, well, Donna, you were supposed to either get $1 million of financing or pay me back. And that's what John's asking. You haven't gotten the financing, now what happens? A couple of things. Either Donna has the money and can pay back, or Donna just never pays back. And the investor has to go, usually Donna's not going to be personally liable, usually if the note is written the right way. Donna's company is going to owe the money. And in real life, if Donna's company hasn't done anything in 3 years, it probably isn't going to do anything. So that note is probably, while they can go sue the company, there might not be a lot of assets there. It might be intellectual property. And that, by the way, John, who asked the question, that's what generally happens. Sometimes people will insist on a personal guarantee. I always push back on that. That's just usually the entrepreneur can get away without the personal guarantee. And that's why, by the way, we started getting into these things called safes, because everybody looked at each other and said, why are we even pretending this note's going to be paid back? So that's how it goes.
Let's see if we can grab a couple more quick questions, see if you can answer them pretty quickly. Yeah. And for a few minutes over, it's fine. We run the show. It's okay. It's not a problem. People are still on and getting this information if they want their questions answered.
Brian, can I just say, I assume anybody who has any questions, feel free to email. I assume everybody has my contact.
Yeah,
drop me an email.
We're gonna put that on.
Okay,
we'll put that on before we leave here. So, Rich, the questions. How do we find, like, let's say we're at that stage where we know we want to step it up and we want to obtain that kind of funding. Where do we go? Who do we ask? Where do we look?
A couple of places. First, there's a lot of governmental resources, and I keep picking on Erica, but like the kind of things that Erica does. Usually, people usually affiliated with universities. There's probably an angel group or some type of group in your region. There might be a chamber of commerce. There might be there's usually some group that does business plan competitions and things like that. So do a little looking around. But if you ask some people, you'd be surprised at how everybody knows everybody else in this ecosystem. And then there's usually people putting on events. There might be business plan competitions where people kind of pitch their business and the public can come, which are great to go to. Here in upstate New York, in Albany and Buffalo, we have tons of that stuff going on. So that's the way to do it. And the other thing, obviously, call lawyers and accountants and bankers that and they're usually plugged into that as well.
There's Robert Cooks. He's asking university market analysis. So I guess where you can go to kind of set up to prepare yourself to pitch.
Yeah, a lot of the certainly up here, it seems like every school now has some kind of a school in entrepreneurship or the business school where you can work with them. They'll have students who will work do a market analysis for you, either for free or for something nominal. The universities, especially the tech universities in your region, are a really good place to start. I think that's what you're asking, and that's usually very, very available. Either at the undergraduate or graduate level. I know around here we have tons of people doing that.
A LinkedIn user, is it okay to mention corporations I'm pitching, issues I'm facing?
The overall question here is, I don't know if they're asking in this forum. I think you usually, or just in general, usually you want to stay away from names until you have a non-disclosure agreement with whoever you're pitching to. Okay. But look, if you could say, I'm talking to Amazon, great. If you really are, no one's going to, people know who they are and no one's going to run in and try and grab that purchase order from you. And yes, I think it is important to mention the issues that you're facing. And I assume you're asking that when you're generally talking to investors. That's what they want to hear. You know, if you didn't have any issues, you know, you'd be an up and running company. But part of what you're asking for from your investors is their knowledge, their experience. You know, you're asking for help on those issues. So I think that's great. Also, if you do have a question that you don't want to, you know, mention in the group, like I say, you can send me an email, and you know, we treat that as we treat any of those inquiries as privileged attorney-client information.
Thank you very much, Rich. One last question. Let's get in here.
Sure.
So we see in your company title, you have an LLP. We've heard LLC, S corp, C corp, self-proprietor, sole proprietor.
Right.
Tell us, just give us kind of like what do you suggest that we do as a corporate lawyer?
The only two things that really make sense for you are either an LLC or a corp. Okay, forget all the other stuff. I know I'm speaking kind of broadly. And if you are going to raise serious venture capital money, usually the advice is use a corp. Use a corporation. That's because the big venture capitalists have documents that are designed for corporations. In fact, they're designed for Delaware corporations, which is another issue. But having said that, LLCs are very easy, and they're fairly easily changed to a corporation when the time comes. There's some reasons why you can get some tax benefits in an LLC that aren't fully available in a corp, and I don't want to put everybody to sleep with tax work. So pick either an LLC or a corporation. If you later have to change, it's a fairly easy change. Forget all the other things. You're not going to be able to get something done with a proprietorship or a partnership or something like that generally. Those are the only two choices. And if you're looking for big VC money in the near term, which in my mind is the next 2 or 3 years, you might as well go right to a corporation unless you have a tax issue. That's a simple.
So everybody listening tonight, there is a way for you to find funding. You got to do your research, your due diligence, got to ask questions, make connections, get out there, watch other people, what they do before you do. Take a look at your competition and analysis, work with your local small business development center, get in touch with somebody like Rich to be able to kind of prep you. You mentioned earlier that you're working with an entrepreneur for 5 years. So you got to be patient, right? That's one thing. Some final words of wisdom, Rich. I know that's one of them, but tell us, there's inventors that are on with us, entrepreneurs, startups, innovators, people who have businesses that do things. What are some final words of wisdom from you, Rich, to keep us moving forward with our businesses and inventions?
Just, have the courage of your convictions. If you really think this is something that can work, then keep pushing ahead and find some people who will give you real advice. Find some people who know what they're doing. I'm not even talking lawyers, friends, business people, the kind of people who will tell you if this isn't really going well and it's time to stop, or the kind of people who will support you when that time comes. But everybody's looking for entrepreneurs. You are the commodity. Okay, everybody's looking for you. And I know sometimes you feel like you're out there alone. There's lots of people whose whole livelihood is supporting people like you. So keep pushing forward, and find yourself somebody who will be a good advisor to you.
Well, Rich, thank you very much for all your amazing wealth of information to the inventor, entrepreneur, startup community. Thank you for being a supporter of National Inventor Club and getting all this information out to us. Here's your information if anybody wants to contact you. When is the right time, Rich, to really get in touch with you? And what do we expect when we call you? Or what should we expect?
First, the right time is any time, the sooner rather than later. Now, you may call and I'll say, okay, I understand everything that's going on. Let me know what happens in 3 months. Usually people have something coming up, excuse me, and I can give them some advice, and and then we're just on each other's radar screen. It's always worth a call. Sometimes I'll call and say, hey, this is something that's a big deal, and you need to either hire me or somebody because this has to happen. But a lot of times what we do is everybody has a lot of knowledge. Your entrepreneurs have a ton of knowledge, and we just kind of fill in some of the gaps. And the other thing is sometimes you could ask the questions that you're uncomfortable asking, publicly, and you say, hey, I always hear this thing called the safe. What is it? That kind of stuff. Call, believe me, I'm very good at telling you. If I don't have time, I'll let you know. But this is what I do all day, and it's actually a really fun way of practicing law. So I'm always looking forward to the calls.
That's awesome. Well, you're in a fun spot, and you get to listen to all our big ideas. So that's
Right.
great. If you take a look, we've had some really great feedback from the audience. So thank you, Michelle, Kim. Thank you, Constantine. Still on social. Thanks for joining us, Constantine. Kim, thank you, Alexis, Carrie, Joe. Thank you all for participating and being on the meeting with us tonight. So, Rich, thank you again.
Thank you.
We'll keep in touch.
Yes.
Hopefully, we'll hear some more success stories that came from National Inventor Club,
Right.
and keep doing what you're doing so you make our dreams come true. That's the whole idea, and what we're trying to do is we're trying to bring our visions to life. So we need people like you to help us.
Thanks for having me. It was great.
Thank you very much, Rich. Appreciate it.
Bye now.
Bye-bye. See you soon. All right. And that wraps up another meeting of National Inventor Club, August 2022. The end of summer for many of us. If you live on the other side of the country, you got summer all year round. Lucky you. I'll try to keep my tan going for as long as I can. But really, everybody, thank you so much. All the premium members, the paid members, you should have received a link to the after meeting networking. We'll hang out there for a little while. We'll talk about what we've learned with this meeting. We'll talk about possibly helping each other with your invention, licensing, manufacturing. There might be some patent attorneys or agents on with us. So join us after meeting, and everybody else, please enjoy. And thank you for enjoying the free version of National Inventor Club. And just keep in touch. We have our newsletter. We have the website that has all kinds of fun stuff throughout the month. So please keep in touch. And again, let's bring our visions to life with this great information. Until then, keep doing what you're doing and making your dreams happen, and do your research, get the right information, connect up with the right people, and we'll see you next time. Thank you so much. Have a great night.